Good evening, everyone. I forgot to unmute myself there, Ken, so had to take another little quick step. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to COS Indiana Live 2022. I want to welcome you to our broadcast this evening. And as you can see, joining me this evening is my co-host, Ken Kashuba. Ken is our state communications coordinator. How you doing, Ken?
I'm doing fine, Dale. How about you?
Good, good. Ken, now we won't get into this tonight, but
but
uh,
but you will, right?
but I we just had our state strategy meeting, our annual state strategy meeting over the weekend, this past Saturday, and Ken actually, Ken, we're gonna have to show this sometime. We can't do it tonight, but Ken actually, along with, I guess we need to give credit to our newsletter editor Sue Lyon too, right? You and Sue Lyon and Maringo Mike put on a song that everybody was just so impressed. We weren't expecting it, okay, and it was a special guest type uh, thing that got injected into the agenda, unbeknownst to me, but it was quite a hit. So a little teaser there, Ken. So you're going to have to. Do you think we ought to play that sometime on the broadcast here?
Yeah, we have. If we have 5 minutes, it takes about 5 minutes to do it because it's a complete song. But yeah,
Yeah.
Susan was the catalyst in getting that, and we thought, we have to bring some light enjoyment to what turned out to be a 6 or 7 hour strategy meeting. We had to break it up with something. So
Yeah, you sure did. You sure did. And Sue wrote the lyrics to that, right? Did you tell me that she wrote the
yeah,
lyrics?
Susan wrote the lyrics. She wrote the lyrics and sent them to me and said, "Hey, this would be. I got a great idea." And then that's where it all started.
All right, all right. And tell us again now. This was set to what song?
Well, this was set by the Leonard Skinner song "Sweet Alabama," "Sweet Home Alabama."
Okay,
So
but
as
it
you can
was
tell, it goes very well with Indiana.
Sweet Home Indiana. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Okay. Well, little teaser, folks. We'll get that for you. We'll get that for you. I think you'll really enjoy it. Okay. Um, Steve, Ken won't be singing tonight, so
No,
you don't have to
no.
don't worry about that tonight. Okay. Well, but what Ken will be doing, among other things, he'll be monitoring the comments and questions that come in from our viewers. And if you are viewing this evening, we encourage you to enter any comment or question that you may have. So we'll try our best to get it on and get it addressed during our broadcast this evening. So, Ken, hope I got the count right, but this is broadcast number 166, and you have been involved in the past 34 of
34
those
of them. Yeah.
broadcasts.
Yeah. Starting to feel old.
All right. Well, if you're starting to feel old, how am I supposed to feel?
Well, I wasn't going to go there, but
You weren't going to go in there.
because you did.
I hope y'all don't mind us keeping count like this. I think it's important because we view these live streams, broadcasts, whatever you want to call them. We view these as virtual town hall meetings. At least I've always viewed them that way. And conducting town hall meetings is kind of something that we do a lot of and try to do as much as possible. And I when I discovered virtual capabilities of this type, I just felt like this was something we needed to continue doing. We certainly favor in-person meetings, and we encourage our various leadership individuals throughout the state, one of which we're going to have as a guest tonight, to conduct in-person town hall meetings. So we do encourage that, but we also continue with the virtual town hall meetings, and that's what this is. So
That's another form of self-governance.
it is. That's right. Okay. Enough for that. And I just want to mention now, also keep in mind our national website, conventionofstates.com. If you're not part of the Convention of States family, that's where you go to start that process. Go to the national website, conventionofstates.com, provide your information, sign in, become a supporter, and if you're interested, look at some of the leadership roles that we have available for you to get involved in, or if whatever your activist passion might be, we've got a place for you in Convention of States. Might also mention that our roundtable is coming up next Monday, the 26th. Same time, same place as this one. It's just it's a different format. It's a panel discussion. I think our topic's going to basically, Ken, right, be about Constitution, right?
Yeah, it's kind of fitting in with the Constitution month, or was it Constitution Day? But we almost looked at it as Constitution Month. So
right.
More talk about the Constitution. So
yeah, so Constitution, what, 235 years old? Is that the right number?
235. Yeah, I believe so. If we're not both mistaken.
Yeah. All right. Well, roundtable coming up next Monday, the 26th. Well, what we've been doing this year, our theme has been on our live streams here, and that is, what activism can I take in Convention of States? What we're trying to create here in Convention of States nationally is an army of self-governing activists, and we're trying to grow that army. Well, activism can take different roles, different endeavors, different efforts, and we're trying to what we're trying to do here on the broadcast is we're trying to bring to you some of the people that have chosen various ways to express their activism. And one tonight is we're going to talk to a gentleman that has become one of our newest district captains. And so our guest is going to be Steve Perrine. He's the new district captain in House District 68. So I think you're going to find Steve to be an interesting gentleman, and you'll get to learn more about him this evening. So then I think after our interview with Steve, we'll do a little John's Journal segment. That's John Ackerman does that, John's Journal. We've got John Ackerman and a couple others that do these pre-recorded segments. We call them contributor segments, COS Indiana Live contributors. And they're very, very interesting, very short. And John's contributor segment this evening is entitled Facts. And I think what that really should be, facts or feelings. So I think, is that right?
I think so. Yeah. Facts or feelings. That's always interesting.
Yeah. I think John's got an interesting take on that for you. So then after the contributor segment, then we'll get into Raise Your Voice. This is, well, Ken, I'll let you take this on. This is kind of your thing here. So,
well, yeah, we tend to seem to have fallen into the Raise Your Voice segment with Marengo Mike, and I know we've had a couple of glitches last week getting things up, but I think this week we should be good. We have our Raise Your Voice segment, which is basically a segment of which consists of multiple choice questions and polls and quizzes and things that are designed to interact with our viewership so that we can stay in touch with what the people want to hear. And it does help us with future roundtables and other things that we use for topics of discussion. So I will go ahead and share that tonight if you want. I'll share that QR code so that people can get ready for.
Put that up so people can see that.
Get ready for that. If you get your smartphone out, it should look like something like this. And you should be able to hold your smartphone up to that QR code and it'll get you ready. It'll get you, take you right to slido.com where we will get into that segment later. And if you don't have a smartphone, you want to get in on the action as well, just go to slido.com on your tablet or desktop, and you have to put in the number 2181-543, and that'll get you into the segment. So always fun to participate with the Slido presentation that we do.
I might mention that Ken has not been able to stump me on any of the questions that he's come up with on these. So
yeah, I think I can remember at least one or two.
You can, really?
Yeah, you seem to have forgotten those. I might have to start putting them under the number that we put up there for the number of broadcasts.
You think so? Huh?
Yeah, how many times we've stumped Dale? Yeah.
I'd have to. You'll have to tell me which broadcasts those were.
We'll go back and review. Yeah, we'll go back and review.
Yeah. I think you're stretching it a little bit there. All right. Okay. Well, the polling segment has become very popular. We've got a lot of nice response on those polling questions. So, okay. As we mentioned, our theme this year has been Convention of States and activism. How can you express your activism passion in Convention of States, and the various ways that you can do that? And one of the ways is to take on a leadership role. And we have with us tonight a young man that has taken on, just finished his training as a district captain, and has taken on the role as the new district captain for House District 68. His name is Steve Perrine, and let's bring on Steve right now. There he is. Hello, Steve.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hi, Steve.
Hello. Hi.
Can you hear us okay? You sound good.
That's fine.
All right, good.
Perfect.
Well, Steve, thanks for coming on tonight, and congratulations on becoming one of our newest district captains.
Proud to help.
Without giving your address out per se, whereabouts do you live in Indiana now?
I live in the very southeast corner of the state in Lawrenceburg, Indiana.
Lawrenceburg.
I actually live just out in the county from Lawrenceburg, Indiana.
Okay. All right.
Which, for people who may not know exactly where I'm talking about, I'm almost a suburb of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay. All right. And that's a key point right there. We have long, for some reason, we have a very, very scantily populated membership down in southern Indiana as far as leaders are concerned. And so we are very, very happy for district captains to come on board like Steve from the southern part of Indiana. So I can only, Ken, I don't know if you can think, I can only think of one other district captain that we have down in that part of the state.
Yeah, especially that far down in the southern part of the state. Yeah, I think I can think of just one myself. I don't think we have many more down that far. Yeah.
We had a young man one time in the Evansville area, and but he only lasted a short time. So But anyway, so Steve, we're glad to have you as a new district captain for us here in Indiana.
Glad to be part of the movement.
All right. So tell us the first thing that I want you to, I always ask leadership individuals in our organization when we bring them on as guests like this. I always ask for you to tell us your COS story, not your life story, but your story that, you know, how, when, where you got involved in convention and state. So tell us your story, Steve.
Well, so quite a few years ago, I felt like there wasn't much difference in the political parties in the country. Once they got into office, they never did what they said they were going to, and usually came out really rich on the other end. And I thought that the only way we were ever going to change it was to get term limits involved, but there's no way they were going to do it. So I actually got a domain name called forcedtermlimits.com. And I thought if I could find enough people that felt like me, we'd just vote the incumbent out every time they came up. And then while I was hunting around on the internet one day, I ran across this and said, golly, this is a way better idea.
Okay. So you just kind of stumbled upon us.
Just stumbled upon it.
All right. Oh, that's interesting. So much, everything you said just then, I've heard many, many times, quite honestly. You know, people, they vote for candidates that say they're going to do this and that, and they, you know, get into office and get to Washington, D.C., and they never come through on what they say. So, and I think you are correct, especially with regard to term limits. They're not going to do this. They're not going to do this. It's gonna take us, we the people, to make this happen. Along with the other things that we stand for that we want to see addressed
Sure.
in convention states. But okay, all right, very, very good. Good. Now, Steve, tell us. You live in Lawrenceburg. Tell us. Give us a little idea as to the geography of where your district is located. What are some of the area that you cover in your district? And District 68?
It's really pretty much a rural area. The towns are not very large. Lawrenceburg and Aurora have almost grown into one town. When I was younger, there was a couple mile gap between them, but now they pretty much run together.
Yeah.
We have Rising Sun and Morris Hill, and they're all fairly small towns. I do have 2 gambling boats in my territory. I don't know if that's
do you?
or not.
Do you really?
Probably bigger than some of the towns, right, Steve?
Well, I guess they're pretty large. They have the biggest hotels in the towns.
All right. Are they? Now you're near the Ohio River, right?
Yeah, Lawrenceburg actually sits right on the Ohio River.
Are these boats on the river or are?
Well, the one in Lawrenceburg started out on the river. That was originally, they had to float and they had to move. They couldn't be stationary. They actually had to move away and then come back. So they were on like tethers. They'd move out 20 foot in the river and then come back. And the doors were locked. You couldn't get off the boat and that kind of. So that really taken like a little boat ride. But now, no, they are just stationary on the ground casinos.
That's interesting. Go ahead.
I was going to say, as time went on, at first they had to move, then they didn't have to move. The doors were open, you could come and go all the time. And then they just eventually did away with that too and said, okay, you can just be on the ground.
That's interesting. The town that my wife and I are from in Illinois is located right on the Mississippi River. Actually right across from St. Louis. But many years ago, they got probably one of the first communities to get a gambling boat, and it was docked on the river. And part of the part of the ticket that you bought included a ride on the boat. The boat would actually leave the dock and go down the river a ways, turn around and come back and dock again. I guess that was by law at that point in time. That was a requirement, I guess.
That's the way it was here. It was a law. They had to do it that way.
Right. But
I was going to say they probably had to do that in order to be able to get permission to have the gambling boat there. Was that they had to be on the river and not on land? Is that right, Steve?
Right.
That's what that was my understanding.
Yeah.
But as Steve said, that has changed quite a bit. I guess there are some areas where the boat is actually sitting on like a lake or
yeah, I believe Mississippi has one like that. It actually sits on a lake.
Yeah. Anyway, interesting. I know my dad, who of course lived in the town that we were from, loved going to the boat. As a matter of fact, it became a pretty bad habit of his.
Unfortunately, that happens to a whole lot of people. I had one of my best friends. He, hid a bunch of it from his wife and had a second mortgage and credit cards all maxed out and everything before she found out about it and, nailed him down.
That's the downfall. That's the negative side of that. But anyway, okay. Well, believe me, ladies and gentlemen, Steve does more than gambling votes for his community. I didn't want to dwell too long on that. All right, Steve, tell us about one of the main things, main responsibilities of a district captain is to know your state legislators, meet them, strike up, develop a relationship with them. So I know you're just getting started. Who are your state legislators?
So I have Chip Perfect is my state senator, and then my state representative is Randy Linus.
Okay.
And then I've got congressional legislators of Gary Pence and Todd Young and Mike Braun. Okay.
Those are all federal. But now you haven't met with your state legislators as yet?
No, I have not.
Okay. All right. Well, we want to encourage you to do that, and we have in place now regional legislative liaisons, as well as our state legislative liaison that can help you, set up those meetings and help you go with you if necessary. I know that when I was a district captain, that was you've never been a district captain, have you, Ken?
No, I came in as a state videographer.
That's right. But that was a very scary thing. It certainly was for me. I had never done anything like that before I got involved in commission of states, and that was one of the first things that the state director at the time asked me to do was contact. Matter of fact, the very first thing I was asked to do was to contact my state senator, who I had no idea who that was, and come to find out she lived just a few blocks from me. But the very first thing that I was asked to do was set up a meeting with her, and I did it. And then I did it with my state representative. So and like I said, it's the first one's scary. It is scary, but or kind of makes you nervous, But anyway, so get on that, Steve, and get that done. That's an important thing for you to have done.
It's definitely on my list.
All righty. Well, give us a little idea as to you're a new district captain. Give us an idea as to what some of your objectives would be for your district.
Well, one of the things that's kind of on the top of my list is to go through I've got about 80 people that over the many years have signed up and have expressed that they would like to help out. So that's one of the first things I want to do, is to try and go through and call all those folks and just say, what are your feelings today?
Yeah.
And if so, what do you think you would like to do?
Okay. All right.
And then I've gone and talked to the local library here in town, and they'll give us a meeting room.
Yes.
And you just got to reserve it. So I can't say any time, but you can reserve a small and a large meeting room. So I like to start setting up a meeting once in a while if I can get enough people interested. And if traveling is an issue, then we might just do it with Zoom. I went ahead and signed up for a full Zoom membership for the next year, just so I didn't have to cut the meetings at 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that sounds good. That's how I started my my first town hall meetings. Was in the local library, where just like you have, where they have meeting rooms available to you to reserve. And the local library here covers our county, so they had other library locations in and around our city here. So I was able to, reserve meeting rooms at some of these other library locations. So I was able to kind of move my meetings around. But yeah, that's a good approach, good way to go with having the in-person town hall meeting. So very, very good. Good. Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, Steve, we know that you've taken on an additional job with Convention Estates, and we call it the Slack Master. Tell us about that job that you're involved in now.
So for the folks on here that don't know what Slack is a communication tool that Convention Estates uses to communicate with its members for various things, events, and essentially, from my perspective, it's a instant messenger like on your telephone on steroids. So it allows you to save messages, and it notifies you when something new's been put in. It has channels, which to me are kind of like project groups at a company. It has work areas, which are like companies, and then you have these channels, which are like project groups. And it notifies you when there's something new that's shown up in one of those areas that you have interest in. Lets you go and look at it, and lets you search across all of the groups and all of the people and all of the text messages. So it's really a powerful tool, and it's been challenging getting people up and running on it. So it's taken a little time.
Yeah, and it's it is going to take time, but we're trying to get to the point where we're trying to get all new people that are taking on any kind of a leadership role, any kind of a volunteer role. We want to get them involved in Slack. But I think the biggest thing is it's instantaneous. You don't have to wait for email to get delivered to you. You can immediately contact someone. So it's a very good tool. Very good tool. Okay, good deal. Good deal. That's Slack Master. And how many people do you think you've trained so far? Are you keeping any kind of count?
I've reached out to about 30 people. Some of them are already using it. Other ones I've worked with. So I don't really have a good count on exactly how many. I did work with one at our strategy meeting and got him going while we were there.
Oh, I saw you talking to somebody. That was one of our newest trainees, right?
Right. district
Yeah,
captain
I
trainees.
thought I saw you working with someone there.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
It's
Good.
important to make people feel like they're part of a team, right, Steve? I think that's where Slack helps too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It does. It definitely does.
Yeah.
And I'm available to anyone, just so you know. We'll put my email up later. Anyone that's on here that needs help with Slack or something, I'm available. So just got to reach out to me and we'll get you set up.
Let's go ahead and put that up now.
It's perfect.
That's how you can get in touch with Steve regarding Slack, or if you're interested in getting involved in convention estates and you live perhaps in his district and you'd like to help him out, that's how do you get in contact with him. Steve.Perrine at cosaction.com. And so we'll keep that up there a little bit so everybody can make sure that you note that. We'll come back to it one more time before we let you go, Steve. But I wanted to kind of wrap things up with you on a note of self-governance, because that's so important to what we do here in convention estates. And I know you've been involved in some things other than convention estates. Am I correct?
Yeah, a little bit, not a whole lot.
Okay.
So I can't really think of anything like convention estates I've been involved in.
Okay. But I know you say that you wanted to focus on local things,
Oh yeah,
city council
local
meetings.
government. So I recently moved back I've been in Nashville, Tennessee for 20 years, and Lawrenceburg's my hometown, and just recently moved back. So I've been working to try and get involved in the local government here, the city council, even though I live in the county, the city council and the county commissioners meetings and the planning commission meetings, and pretty much any of the public meetings that they have in the government around here. I want to show up for them.
That's very important. We encourage our leaders to get involved in those types of things. That's all part of self-governance. That's all part of it. Yeah. Okay. Let's put your email address up here one more time, and then we'll let you go.
All right.
Steve.Perrine at cosaction.com. And Ken, any comments or questions for Steve that have come in?
Well, we had a couple of comments, obviously, from the Saturday meeting. We had people able to meet face to face for the first time, when a lot of people have been communicating by Zoom and what have you. So I'll just throw up a couple of comments of people that were at the meeting that just wanted to say hi to Steve. Dale Tipton, and obviously our grassroots persons, wanted to say welcome aboard and excited to have him as part of our COS family. And Jerry Rowe was another one who just said, good meeting you, Steve. And he did have a comment concerning gambling boats. He said that he did a walkthrough on one of those, and he didn't spend a dime. So there's a lot of self resistance there, or
that's self-governance.
There's self-governance there.
That's
Yeah.
Self-governance. Yeah.
Jerry was governance and not dropping a quarter in any one of those machines. So
That's amazing. That's amazing to do a walkthrough and never even
didn't even pull an arm. He didn't even play the one-arm bandit once. So I got to give him credit.
Yeah, very good. Well, Steve, thank you for coming on this evening and giving us some of your time. And we want to wish you the best of luck, and both as a district captain as well as the Slack master, and conducting that training. So thanks a lot, Steve. Thank you. Good talking to you.
See y'all.
Bye, Steve. Good night.
Yep, I think Steve's going to be a good district captain for us. Ken, glad to have him on.
Yep.
Willing to take on responsibilities beyond just being a district captain. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I
very
think
good.
he jumped right in when we were talking about the need of having somebody to be able to train people on Slack, and you got
Right.
to have a little bit of technical experience there and be able to talk to people. So yeah, it was great to have Steve jump in there.
Good, good. All right. Well, listen, I mentioned we were in our, after the interview that we just did, we're going to have a contributor segment here from John's Journal on facts. And like I said, we should have called it facts and feelings, but let me get that started, and I'll give a full screen here and be back very shortly.
Sounds good.
John Ackerman for Convention of States, Indiana. Ricky Gervais of Turning Point USA tweeted, "The world began to crumble when feelings started overruling facts." Think about that. It's kind of an all or nothing statement, but there's a lot of truth in it. The world began to crumble when feelings started overruling facts. You know, I'm a subscriber to the left brain, right brain theory, where it seems like your emotional functions are controlled by the left side of your brain, and your rational functions are controlled by the right side of your brain. And to be fully human, you've got to have an integration of both the left and the right, the thinking and the feeling, you know. But when feelings overrule facts, then the world begins to crumble. Your personal world, the world of those that you are the closest to, and eventually it filters out to the whole world. We need to return to thinking. We need to return to a fact-based society rather than just a feeling-based society. When I was growing up, the mantra was, if it feels good, do it. And now it's just about the opposite. If it makes me feel bad, it's wrong. You shouldn't do it if I feel bad. Well, I'm sorry. Your feelings matter. Yeah, they matter, but not as much as the facts. Facts rule. John Ackerman for Convention of States, Indiana.
Well, I think he's right on, Ken. Don't you think?
He gets it every time, and I appreciate him bringing up an old slogan people, a lot younger probably never heard.
Yeah.
And that is, if it feels good,
Feels
do
good,
it. So,
do it.
it's
Yeah, we both. I can remember that very clearly. Very clearly.
Yep.
The problem, I hate to bring up a negative on this, but the problem is, whose facts? Who? Your facts? My facts? I guess. If there was, I don't know why I'm even bringing this up.
Well, it's been used at this point of late that somebody comes on and says it's fact. And I think it probably started all back with social media when suddenly there were fact checkers, and nobody knows who these fact checkers are. And it's one of those things where you just, I think eventually the truth does win overall. So, but that comes back to the same thing. I know people for a long time, I mean, we're using the old thing. Well, it's the science. It's the science. Well,
right.
The problem with that was science requires debate. Science requires two sides to be able to find true science. You can't just say one side says, well, this is the science, without saying, well, there's another side to this, and investigating it farther. I think that's one of the true losses we've had in our society, is that we've lost the ability to debate. there's nobody wants to debate anything. It's either my way or the highway, way most people think. And unfortunately, they're not open to debate, to discover. It really is a loss. I know when I was in school, we actually had a series of books called Opposing Viewpoints, and it gave two sides to the story in every different chapter. I don't know if those books are still around, but it was called Opposing Viewpoints, and that's what we were taught with back then. So you understood there were people that just didn't agree. You'd run into people that don't agree with you, and a way to debate that, to figure out what the truth is, and then you have to be willing to say, you know what, I was wrong. So I think people have a hard time with that.
Yeah. Okay. This is a good topic to talk about sometime. We'll spend some more time on this, but not right now.
Yep. Just, not part of the agenda, right?
Not part of the agenda tonight. All right. Well, let's move on to the next part, and this is called Raise Your Voice. And Ken, we'll let you and Marengo Mike get this all started.
Yeah, we'll have to get into this and let Marengo come on and do his part, and then we'll bring on the polling.
Yo, scan the code and join the fun. It's your turn to be heard.
Well, as Marengo said, it's time to be heard. So it's time to get your smartphones out, or your laptops, or your desktop, sitting at your desktop, and get ready to plug in the code if you're on that, or just pull up your smartphone and get ready to play, because we are going to bring on the polling. And tonight's polling will certainly be. Let me go ahead and bring up the QR code here so everybody can get that on. Can you see that okay, Dale?
Yes, can.
All right. Hey, sometimes technology does work.
It does, once in a while.
So, yes, we found out even at our state meeting, we've had some technological glitches with cameras and things like that. But now's the time to get your smartphone out and take a scan of that QR code. It'll get you ready to play along. We've got some questions tonight. No quizzes, but we have some multiple choice questions tonight, which we'll get into. And we will get that started here right about now. And don't worry, if you are still looking for your phone, the QR code will be on the left-hand side as we get the question started. But if you are still trying to get to Slido.com, you need that 2181-543 number to get in. So with that, we'll get our first question up for the evening. And that is, how many delegates can each state send? So in other words, when we get to the convention, and notice I said when we get to the convention, how many delegates can each state send? Right now, we've got 100% saying as many as they want. Well, that's pretty scary, isn't it, Dale? I mean, California, they might just send, how many? We got a couple people saying 4, a few people saying 2. So here we are split. 33, now back to 50% on as many as they want.
So. There are some states that have already designated how many delegates that they will be sending, and I think Indiana is one of those. I think haven't we decided on 2 with.
I thought 2, or I thought 4 was in the discussion from Indiana. I'm not sure. I think
I don't remember. I ought to know that.
Yeah. But the answer to the question actually is as many as they want. But the thing behind that, what's the important part behind that, Dale? I know this part.
The important part behind that is that any voting that is taken is one state, one vote.
Right.
So
they can send a slew of people, but they only get one vote.
A slew of people, but when it all comes down, each state gets only one vote when it comes to voting on what's going to be a proposed amendment or what's not going to be a proposed amendment. So
right. So I think that's a good thing. I know in our I think in a couple of discussions we've had, I know Marty is big on this. He'd like to have everyday people be sent as delegates, and then have a couple of lawyers or legislator lawyers type people available to to cover anything that has to be done. But he'd like to see just the everyday person be represented as a delegate. So that there's some interesting thoughts behind that, and each state certainly will be represented differently. But again, it comes down to just the one vote that's most important.
Right.
So we'll go on with the second question here, and that again happens to do with delegates. So delegates from each state must come from the legislative body of each state. And I think I've already blown this question as I talked about it. Is that true or false, or you're not sure? It is false. It is false. I kind of gave that away by talking about sending everyday people. So I kind of ruined question number 2 there for you. But just to expand on that, I mean, this is not just the legislative body that is represented from each state. It can be everyday people,
and that's very important. I think that's very important to get non-politicians involved in this. We the people. I
agree. It's that comes with that fits in part with our raise your voice. It's we the people. It's we the people.
Right.
So we'll hit our last question for the night, and that is, how many applications from state legislatures for an Article 5 convention have been submitted in the history of the Republic?
Oh, geez, I can never remember this.
Here's the one I think I've got, John Dale. We're going to have to mark this down as a stumper. Is it none? Is it over 10? Is it over 75, or is it over 400? How many applications from state legislators for an Article 5 convention have been submitted in the history of the Republic? Any guess there, Dale? Your time's running out. We got the Jeopardy music ready to play. You looking it up? No cheating.
No, I'm not looking it up.
Don't ask Alexa.
I'm trying to think of the wording of the question, if it's a trick question.
I don't know if it's a trick question. There's
applications from
how many applications from state legislatures have for an Article 5 convention? So obviously, we've never had a convention, but have the state, we've actually had some applications, or maybe none. I don't know.
I'm thinking over 400. I don't know why I tend to draw to that, but I'm thinking over 400. Like you said, none of the applications have met the requirements.
Right.
To conduct an Article 5 convention.
We weren't able to get 3/4 of the states to go on it, but so that goes back to how many were actually submitted. So is that your final answer, Dale?
Yes, it is.
Well, you happen to be right. It's over 400 applications have been submitted during through the history of the Republic. It's over 400 applications were submitted. So, and
that's very interesting to know that when we make this happen, we're going to be the first one to make it happen. And I think
actually make it. Yep.
One of the key factors involved is it's a term called aggregate. You've heard of this movement called the balanced budget movement. They claim to have almost the required number of states to call an Article 5 convention. The problem is that the resolutions are not the same, and that's a key thing. They've all got to be the same.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important for each state that comes on through Convention of States that they utilize the Convention of States resolution, so that when we get to 34 states, all of them are for the same thing.
And that's another reason. That's another key reason, Dale, why it shoots down the myth of a runaway convention.
Yes. Yes.
It just shoots down the runaway convention myth altogether, because it basically shows you over 400 applications and none of them have gone through yet. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean
That's a good question. That was a good question, Ken.
yeah. So
Question. You're getting very good at this, Ken.
well, and I'm going to go back and look it up, but I do want to make the record straight that there are times when we can stump our state director.
I know you want to get that straight, don't you? Yes, sir.
But you did good. I think you were leaning towards, I don't know what you were leaning towards, but you ended up at the 400 mark.
See, I had to study the question because knowing you'd throw in a trick question there if you could. All right. Well, let's wind things down here. Any comments or questions, Ken, that have come up since our
Mostly greetings tonight. We did have somebody that I met for the first time in our state meeting this past week, and we figured out who he was when he was coming on here as Bobster, who is Bob Suarez, and we were able to meet Bob. And matter of fact, I do need to get with him. He's got a few things. He gave me a few ideas on quizzing going forward, so I need to get together with Bob, and we need to come up with some new quizzes from our friend Bob Suarez. So that was, let me see. We also had greetings from Grant County. We have SGT 9412. Sounds like I'm doing an FBI quiz here.
That sounds like Sergeant 9412.
Sergeant 9412, yeah. So I'm not sure whether that's from an old TV show or what, or just maybe somebody who's out there. Maybe they'll disclose where that Sergeant 9412 came from. But that's Grant County. So our hats off to Grant County out there for coming in tonight. Let me see if there's anything else. I had... well, Gary Harbaugh, we know who this guy is. He was just saying it was nice to meet you in person. He was talking about Steve there as well at the planning meeting. So
yeah,
get everybody's got these comments in there. So that's about it. Good
deal. All right. Well, let me mention one more time that the national website, conventionofstates.com, that's where you go to take that initial step of joining Convention of States and becoming a supporter, conventionofstates.com. Also want to remind you our next broadcast happens to be the roundtable coming up on 9/26 next Monday. We got to get some guests lined up for October, Ken, now that I think about it.
The months are flying. I mean, it's hard to believe we got another roundtable coming up already. I don't know where this year's gone, but I know we've all been looking forward to November anyway. But it's going to be here sooner than we think. So,
well, listen, I want to post something here that I wanted to start mentioning, and we need to be talking about this even more as time goes on, and that is. Starting here in September, we're going to introduce a new podcast that we're going to be doing, and it's called COS Indiana Live Voices. And we will be starting this is a podcast, so there's no video involved. This is recorded audio, and we will be, as time goes on, we'll show you where these podcasts are going to be stored for you to call up and listen to on your phone at your convenience when you have time and the need to listen to something like that. Our first guest that we're going to have on, and we will have, and it'll be hosted by myself and Ken. But our first guest is going to be Dr. Dan Stock. And if you all remember, Dr. Dan has been a very vocal individual for Convention of States here in Indiana, especially during the COVID pandemic. He spoke out against that quite well and earned some spots with Tucker Carlson and some other conservative TV talking heads, I might say. So we're going to take some time with Dr. Dan and get kind of caught up with what he's been doing since that. And I think you're gonna. I know he's been involved in a lot of things, Ken.
He's a busy guy. He's a busy guy.
He's a busy guy, and I think everybody. I think you're gonna find it interesting as to what he's involved in now. But yeah, Dr. Dan's a good activist for Convention of States, and that'll be coming up here in. I'm hoping that we can get that recording done in the next week or so, 10 days, and so see what we can get done. All right, let's go back then and let's wrap this up this evening. I want to mention one more time that if you have any comment or thought or question after the broadcast this evening, you can reach us by email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com.
Yep.
So Ken, I think that's going to be a wrap for this evening. We always like to stress our favorite acronym, GOTC, get off the couch.
Time to get off the couch. Yep.
Time to get off the couch and get involved. There's a lot to be done, a lot that can be done, and we believe the Convention of States is the way to go to get it done, using the Constitution to save the Constitution.
Perfect.
Save the Constitution and this country. So with that, Ken, any other comments or anything from your side?
Not really. I agree with you. It's time for people to roll up their sleeves and actually do something. Everybody I know will be at the polls this year pulling levers. But if you want to do something more than just pull a lever, and that'll be important this November, but you want to do more than that, to roll up your sleeves and actually feel like you're part of something that is accomplishing something that basically people only seem to talk about and have hopes about, then join us at Convention of States. It is the one, and I think this was clarified at our strategy meeting. It is the one movement that is going to be the largest movement in the country. So,
we have 65,000 supporters here just in the state of Indiana. Nationally, about 5.3 million, and growing daily. So we'd love to have you join us. With that, say goodbye. And once again, next Monday evening is our roundtable on the 26th. We'll be talking about the Constitution. We're going to have Debbie Stewart, our Constitution expert, will be joining us as a guest panelist. So should be very interesting. Hope to see you all there. So, Good night, Ken. Good night, everyone.
Good night.